Is it fair to say that because you came to RP Center, you had influence of Dr. Professor LP Agarwal, and then you chose to become a cornea doctor?
Cornea at that point actually was an accident. I was applying to all kinds of fellowships.
Dr. Gullapalli N made history as the first ophthalmologist in India to deliver the prestigious Doyne Lecture and the first Indian to be awarded the ICO Jules Francois Golden Medal 2024.
So now when you're doing so well and you're in America in 70s, who would want to come back?
A lot of Indian doctors were going to America, passing ECFMG from all over the country.
And how this idea of LV Prasad, or how did that happen?
Our services should be available to everybody, whether they pay, don't pay, doesn't matter.
Why did you think that it's important to start research, the training?
We were very clear it will have three elements: patient care, education, research.
What is the current number and what is the impact of LVP as on today?
38 million visits so far in our outpatient clinics.
Nobody is doing such comprehensive and such in detail.
Yeah.
I think that probably is the best as far as I have gone around the world. Good morning. My name is Dr. Virender Sangwan, and it's my proud privilege to welcome Dr. G.N. Rao, founder chairman of LV Prasad Eye Institute. Welcome, Dr. Rao.
Thank you.
We are here today to talk about how is the cornea as a specialty developed, and I thought that you are here in this meeting. I should take this opportunity to discuss with you and your training, and who are all the influences as far as your cornea science goes. So we will start from there.
Okay.
Can you just tell me briefly about your early training in Guntur, and why and how you decided to come to AIMS?
I did my early education in a village near Vijayawada. Then I moved to Guntur, one of the bigger towns in Andhra Pradesh, and now considered a city next to the present capital of Andhra Pradesh, where I continued until I completed my medical college. My father also happened to be an ophthalmologist in that town. Actually, in fact, the first qualified ophthalmologist of that place.
Oh, nice.
And after completing my MBBS, wanted to pursue ophthalmology in the best possible place. There were only two choices I had in mind at that time, either to go to RP Center or to go to Madurai to work with the renowned Dr. Venkataswamy. So fortunately, I got admission to the RP Center program. So that's how I ended up in Delhi. Mm-hmm. And those 4 years were in many ways transformational to my life. because until then I was kind of sheltered, living with my parents at their home and in my own environment, like a small town Andhra boy. When I moved to Delhi, I didn't know a word of Hindi.
Oh,
and and I had to learn Hindi. I had to learn the basics of surviving in a big institution. It was very intimidating coming from a small town in the south. Suddenly, this big city, big institution, and the reputation and all the environment there. And I'm glad I survived and came out of it reasonably well. And a number of people helped, and very grateful to the kind of education that was given. And a lot of credit to the then actually founder, head of RP Center, Professor LP Agarwal, a true visionary. In my view, he is the best ophthalmologist this country ever had,
oh, that's
of all
fantastic.
generations. Brilliant, visionary, knowledgeable scholar. Every aspect of ophthalmology he knew. And he loved his postgraduate students. He always used to say, that's my number one job, to make them good. And he did in every possible way. So I have benefited from that and many other excellent teachers in RP Center.
So if I can stop you there, if I am a head of the department and training residents or the listeners who are listening to our conversation, what are the elements of a residency program you think and which Dr. LP Agarwal embodied? What would you tell the HODs or people who are training in the new young people?
I feel very strongly if you accept trainees, you have to be willing to be a mentor, not just a teacher. To me, there is a difference between a teacher and a mentor. Teacher is showing them a couple of surgical techniques and giving them a few lectures, explaining a few outpatient clinical findings, and then they stop. Whereas a mentor is fully involved in the life and upbringing of the resident to advance the career of the resident. That is a real mentor. You have to really think your trainees are your kids. Just like parents want the very best to their children, a trainer, or if you want to be a trainer and accept the responsibility of trainees, you have to consider each of them as your own child and take that responsibility to make them better. If somebody is lagging behind, you have to make sure that you take special measures to pull them too. And you will be surprised with the results. In my own experience, some of them who started out at the lower end of the selection process ended up as the toppers by the time they finished their residency training program. So in my belief, everybody has a spark. How you ignite it is the question, and a good teacher is one who ignites that and brings out the best out of people.
I'm a living example of your training. That when I joined fellowship with you in LVP, I really had no knowledge, or I could not speak English properly. And when my training started, you pulled up Dr. Sobha Bhogani, and I felt very bad that why he's poor lady is suffering because of me. And now when I am a teacher, I feel that yes, that was the probably right thing as a trainer. So I really appreciate that what are those elements that you picked up and inculcated or imbibed in those in LVP training program?
No, because I felt very strongly, because when I went to Delhi, if Professor Agarwal did not enforce the discipline, I knew I would have ended up as a mediocre ophthalmologist somewhere in Andhra, probably Guntur, inheriting my father's practice. I would have never reached anywhere near what I am today. It is that background, that foundation, because at that age we quite often don't know what is good for us and what is not good for us. We think we know, but we really don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody has to put that discipline into us. And over the years I have realized the one biggest factor if you want to get anywhere in life is discipline.
Yes.
Even brilliance comes nowhere close to it.
So, is it fair to say that because you came to RP Center, you had influence of Dr. Professor LP Agarwal, and then you chose to become a cornea doctor, or how did you decide, and what was the thinking at that time?
Cornea at that point actually was an accident. I was applying to all kinds of fellowships. I wanted to get to US
Okay.
to advance my career. And in those days, for a foreign medical graduate to get into any ophthalmology in the US was next to impossible. It was by sheer chance some people could get into, and it's through that chance I also got into. I applied for every fellowship, retina, cornea, whatever. I even applied for residencies.
Oh, okay.
Residency programs responded saying you are overqualified. Fellowships, I didn't get a chance. Finally, I ended up in this fellowship because the fellow who was actually selected, an American, dropped out in the last minute.
Okay.
And I got it in the waiting list. And then I was told he would not be able to pay me any stipend because the stipend comes from research grants of the NIH, and a non-citizen cannot get it.
Cannot get it.
So I did my first year of fellowship without any stipend.
Oh, then how did you support yourself?
Took support from my sister-in-law, my wife's elder sister. And my wife did a part-time job in the medical school, Tufts Medical School. So that's how we supported ourselves.
Okay. So were there actually fellowships in America cornea at that time,
that
or
time-
can you give us little about how the cornea fellowship?
Cornea fellowship in America started in a very unusual way. In fact, it was started by my mentor, Dr. James Aquavella in Rochester. Apparently in late 50s, early 60s, after completion of his residency in New York, he went up to Professor Klaus Dolman at Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary, the Harvard's hospital, and asked him, I want to do fellowship with you. And Professor Dolman looked at him and said, what is fellowship? And I want to spend a year with you and learn cornea. And that's how the first fellowship informally started.
Oh, so he was the first fellow of Dr.
First
Dolman.
fellow of Klaus Dolman.
Was there any other fellowship in glaucoma or anything, or
No,
there's
nothing at that time.
Okay.
And alongside, at the Mass Eye and Ear, they started retina fellowship with Dr. Scapins, and 1 or 2 years this way, that way, I don't remember, I don't know. Glaucoma with Paul Chandler and Grant,
Oh, okay.
Morton Grant.
Morton Grant, yes.
So those were the 3 fellowships that I remember. And that was the beginning of the cornea fellowship at Massachusetts Eye and Ear. The following year, I think it was Peter Leibson and Jules Baum were the next batch of fellows, from what I remember. So interesting stories, and that was a very exciting place for cornea in those days. A lot of clinical work, a lot of research in multiple areas. Real giants were working there.
Who were the key cornea people in Mass Eye and Ear or in
At that
Harvard?
time, Dr. Dolman was the head. Actually, he just became the chairman of the Department of Ophthalmology. When he became the chairman, he gave the head of cornea to a lady called Deborah Pavan Langston,
Yes.
a world authority on herpes simplex keratitis in those days. And Debbie led the cornea service for some years. Matthias Allen Smith was the one in inflammation and allergy. And Richard...
Lindstrom?
no, not Lindstrom. This guy.
Richard Thoft?
Thoft. Richard Thoft was the other one. Arthur Borkoff, who was a practicing corneal specialist in Boston, but was an associate clinical professor at Mass Eye and Ear. He was always there. Very, very strong people. And my contemporary fellows, even though I was not a fellow there, I was a fellow at Tufts. At Mass Eye and Ear were people like Steve Foster, Mark Abelson, Dwight Kavanaugh. These were the fellows there.
And Kent Kenyon was...
Ken Kenyon was many years junior to us, a few years junior. Ken came later,
Okay.
and then he actually succeeded Debbie Langston as the director of cornea service.
Okay.
Yeah, Ken came from Hopkins, Wilmer Eye Institute, where he did residency. Again, a brilliant fellow. This one, Dwight Kavanaugh, used to run the entire teaching session and discussions, both clinical as well as research. They used to have research day one day at the Retina Foundation next door on Stanford Street. So we all used to go to those research meetings where all the best researchers in cornea from around the world used to come as visiting professors. It was so exciting, intellectually enriching experience, those kinds of experiences. And there also Dwight was an MD PhD by then. He did his PhD with one of the Nobel laureates. And he knew and could quote from every article published in all of biology, not just ophthalmology, not just medicine, but all of biology.
Wow.
That was the
That is
brilliance.
something,
That
yes.
was brilliance.
Yeah, that was brilliance, pure brilliance.
Yeah, and right after fellowship, he went as the chairman of the department and the director of New Eye Institute at Emory University in Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So Dr. Dolman becomes the chairman. Then Dr.
Debbie Langston Cornea Service.
Yeah, and the doctor you trained from Rochester.
No, right after fellowship, he moved to Rochester.
He moved back to Rochester.
And he was not from Rochester, he was from New York City.
Yeah, he was from New York City, but he moved to Rochester.
Rochester.
And then you did a fellowship with him.
Yeah. After I did, my first fellowship with Dr. Jules Baum in Boston, who was doing in Tufts. He was a professor at Tufts. And during that year, two things I learned. I really understood what rigor means.
So can you tell what it means for our listeners?
When I was examining patients, we are supposed to make diagrams, color diagrams. If we missed one spot of superficial punctate keratitis, we used to get a big lecture from him. So that was the intensity of observation that he taught us, clinical observation. And the second thing is, when I was writing manuscripts, my first manuscript with him went through 14 revisions.
Oh.
The first draft came back all red. There's nothing left of what I actually wrote. And I graduated to only 4 revisions for my second paper. But that foundation helped me, because the following year, when I went to do a second fellowship with Dr. Aquavella to get more surgical experience, I could publish 14 papers in 1 year.
Oh,
so that set me on the path for writing for the rest of my life. So that is the kind of intensity with which he trained us. Dr. Baum, always very grateful. And the other thing is, I was working in the lab on penetration of antibiotics into the eye was my research project. Working in the lab of a world-renowned infectious disease specialist, Louis Weinstein.
Louis Weinstein.
He used to travel to Paris in those days every week by private jet to take care of Aristotle Onassis, who was admitted in a hospital for pneumonia in Paris. Aristotle Onassis was the husband of Jackie Kennedy, second husband, after Kennedy died. So he used to travel there. So Dr. Baum took me the first day I joined the fellowship to introduce me to him and said, "You are meeting a living legend." He introduced me to him. And that was again a wonderful experience of how to work in one of the topmost laboratories in the world, lab research. So very fortunate to get that kind of intense experience right in the first year.
So
you have to work very hard, but then you get the benefits of that.
So that means then you were all set by doing a 1-2 fellowship, and then you started as a faculty.
And in between, I did a general ophthalmology I had to do, because when I joined Dr. Baum, I was delayed by a month. Because here our postgraduate exams were delayed that year because of a strike by all residents of All India Institute. We were fighting for stipend equivalent of IAS trainees in Missouri. So
That's interesting.
That strike went on for 3 months. And then our exams were postponed, so my start of fellowship was delayed. By the time I reached there, I didn't realize next year's fellowships were already gone everywhere. So there was nothing available except this general ophthalmology fellowship in University of Connecticut. But I moaned and groaned about it, but that helped me to prepare for my boards and get that done during that year. So then I chose to go to Dr. Acquavella for a second fellowship because he was doing one of the highest volumes of transplants in the country at that time. And also very high volume. And he was always at the forefront of all developments in anterior segment surgery, the intraocular lenses as they were coming, corneal transplantation, every aspect of it, the refractive surgery of those days, everything he was doing. And he was very meticulous in the
Documentation.
surgical techniques. Every step, where the needle should go, at what depth, why, those kinds of things he taught us. And then after every surgical case, you come out, it was all recorded. There used to be a studio between two operating rooms, recording all operating procedures. The fellow is supposed to go into the studio at the end of the procedure, edit the tape, so through that process you'll learn.
Very good idea.
And you realize what mistakes, how you could have improved a certain step.
Very nice.
And that helped because that was the Kodak city, Rochester. Kodak helped him to set up all that.
So you were all set by doing all this, started a faculty, doing very well.
By the end of the second fellowship, I was planning to, halfway through, I went up to Dr. Acquavella and said, could you recommend me to some position somewhere? People may be looking and may be asking you. He said, actually, I was meaning to talk to you. I want you to stay on with us. I said, yes. I didn't ask how much salary, what are the conditions for the job. I had to talk to my wife, nothing like that. As soon as he asked,
Yes, said yes.
I said, because it was so exciting. I was doing a lot of clinical work, I was doing research, I was publishing, a lot of excitement. So I said yes. And then I stayed on for 10 years after that. Yeah.
So see, from your conversation, Dr. Rao, it looks, today youngsters think that life is very easy. It looks like the struggle is for medicos everywhere, every stage of life.
No, I keep telling these days whenever I meet, I got into medical college waiting after a first year I didn't get in. Next year I got in. I got into RP Center as an unpaid house surgeon. Because I didn't make in the top four. I was the sixth one in the list. Got into fellowships through waiting list. I guess somewhere along the line, I thought to myself, no more waiting lists in my life.
That's good. That's good. So now when you're doing so well and you're in America in 70s, who would want to come back? So can give us some idea?
In that era, a lot of Indian doctors were going to America, passing ECFMG from all over the country. Most of them went with the idea we'll be there for 4 or 5 years, get trained and come back. But almost all of them have changed their mind and settled there. But we fortunately never changed that. We always wanted to come back and kept that going. That thought process never changed. So we were going back frequently, visiting the family and all that. And every single time I was coming to India, I passed through Delhi, I went to RP Center. So that connection remained. And so that's why 4 or 5 years before we returned, we sat down, my wife and I, we have to fix a date, otherwise you can keep on getting postponed. Because everything was so exciting. We had a wonderful life, professionally doing very well, traveling all over the world, all that stuff, very exciting, very glamorous.
And kids also growing,
growing up,
in an environment, yes.
And lots of good friends, both Americans and Indians in the community. It was the easy choice was to settle down. And 88 January, I was due to become a full professor at the university, etc. So at 42, it would have been impossible in India to become a full professor.
Yes.
Whereas I was going to become a full professor. With all that, we said we are leaving, let's fix a date. And then we decided we'll go back in late 86. And Dr. Acquavella tried every bit to keep me back, including sending an auditor, accountant, to tell me how much we will have in our retirement account if we continued there. So the only thing I told him is, Fred, thank you very much for the information, don't let my children know this, I said. But I think no regrets. Surprisingly, the only regret I had was when we were looking to get admission to our kids in schools in Hyderabad. The way the principals behaved, outright insulting to parents. And at that time, we thought, why the hell did we come back to go through this? But otherwise, no regrets.
So did you or Madam Pratibha ever thought of going back actually once you have decided and started?
Yeah, never.
Okay. And how this idea of LV Prasad, or how did that happen?
No, initially the thing was just to come back. Then as we began to plan, if we were going back to India, it should not be routine practice. The one idea was clear, that if we went back, it should be that our services should be available to everybody, whether they pay, don't pay, doesn't matter. That was very clear. That was one simple thought we had.
Can I just stop here? How did you get this idea? Why did you want to do this? I think this is such a powerful message.
I don't know. Probably there, I think there were multiple influences of my upbringing in a village up to age 10. I think may have had something to do with it. And my grandfather, maternal grandfather, was a freedom fighter. He gave away all his property to the Congress party. The different type of Congress party in those days. Yeah, and he sold his entire property and gave it and spent on the party in those days. And I think his influence, in fact, my father used to worry about me. I inherited all the qualities of my grandfather.
But I must tell you, Dr. Rao, the conviction that you have about treating everyone equally, I think it's unparalleled. I haven't seen, and all of us who are fortunate to be trained with you, we somehow have imbibed, and it's become, we were all looking for a role model. And we found that in LVP.
It was an eternal challenge. Once in a while, we keep challenging at the institute. Are we really still doing it? If we hear any story of anybody why did that patient go away without getting treatment? Why didn't we offer this package, lowest package to this middle class? Those questions keep on popping up so that nobody forgets our mission. Hopefully, maybe in 10 years, in India also, nobody may need a non-paying kind of care. But as long as there is a requirement of somebody needing a care, it shall be given whatever the cost of treatment is.
Now, please come back to how this meeting or the LV Prasad
so then when we decided, we started a foundation in the US to raise money.
So you started when you were there?
Yeah.
When the date was decided, then you started foundation?
Yeah, 2-3 years before that. And then our plan was to approach friends, industry, people in Rochester, Indian ophthalmologists in America, 4 or 5 groups. So, but Pratibha insisted, before you ask anybody, let us commit from our side. So we made a commitment and then began to approach others. And the money that we raised there was for equipment. And then we approached the state government. N.T. Ramarao was the chief minister then. I wrote a letter to him. Everybody said, are you kidding? No Indian politician would respond to a letter. But in fact, I got a response in 15-20 days.
Wow, that's very
Next time you are in India, come and see me. So I went and met the next time I was in India. And he connected me to his secretary, who was a wonderful gentleman, one Mr. Raghavendra Rao, who unfortunately died in a scooter accident.
Oh.
That gentleman arranged for us to be taken around, shown different sites. And we selected a site. I had no idea what site we selected. But ultimately I was told the Kismatpur site was the one we selected. I had a feeling that was not the one we picked, but anyway.
But that's what you got.
And so we thought we would take a small bank loan, build a small building, get started there, buy equipment from the money we raised in America, and get started. But a year before we returned, I was introduced to Mr. Prasad's son, who was visiting America,
Ramesh Prasad, you mean?
Ramesh Prasad, and that they had money for a good medical project. The profits from their film called Ek Tujhe Ke Liye. And he met, we talked on phone, and then I sent him the proposal that we were thinking of. 5 months later, I was visiting India, went and met both father and son in their house in Chennai. That's when they told me they have decided to support this project. And he said, not only the money, we also want to give land. Half of the land we have for our film lab in Hyderabad. So since Banjara Hills was a better location, we have decided we would start there. And the board of trustees of the Hyderabad, we started a trust by then in Hyderabad, Hyderabad Eye Institute. So the trustees decided to name it after Mr. Prasad. And we had very good trustees, only few. Professor Ramalinga Swami was one of our trustees, former Director General of ICMR, Director of AIMS. Actually, after whose name the ICMR building is.
Building is named, yes.
Yeah. He was one of our trustees. Dr. Narla Tata Rao, he was the chairman of the Andhra Pradesh Electricity Board. And one Mr. Rama Rao, and my co-brother who was doing this cut work while I'm away in the US, getting permissions and all that here. And myself, 5 of us. And that's how we started.
So making a trust, like you registered this trust, but name LV Prasad is the brand name, which is owned by Hyderabad Eye Institute.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, and maybe young people can think about, it's not necessary the hospital and the trust name has to be the same.
Doesn't have to be. That I learned from both Shankar Netralaya and Arvind. Because the family of Dr. Venkateswamy at Arvind, we have known, because my father and Dr. Venkateswamy were colleagues in Madras Egmore Eye Hospital before my father moved to Guntur. So we were actually neighbors in the assistant surgeon's quarters of the eye hospital in Chennai in those days. So I got a lot of information, support encouragement from Dr. Venkateswamy and his group. So they told me all these things. Their trust is also called Go Well Trust. Hospital is Arvind. Here it's Medical Research Foundation in Madras, and the hospital is Shankar Netralaya.
So when you're setting up, Dr. Rao, why did you think that it's important to start research, the training? I felt that being the very earliest fellow, that your emphasis on training and research was so much that, only then we realize the value of these things.
No, that I think was the American influence. Because when we were coming back, finally the thought was we are going to create a high quality academic eye center along the lines of the best of American centers. So we were very clear it will have 3 elements: patient care, education, research. And a couple of years later, without knowing that we have to be comprehensive, without any understanding, we said we'll include rehabilitation also, integrate that. So we added that. That's how we got started. So if you realize, before we saw the first patient, we started education. We used to run journal clubs next door in Prasad Labs, in their auditorium, for local ophthalmologists. Before we started, it was very popular actually.
I remember we used to go to NIMS for the pathology with Dr. Ratnakar.
Ratnakar was my senior in medical college and AIMS. And so that's how we started. That has to be there. And the research started with the first medical record. So every medical record documentation has to be along the standards of an American center. That is, each medical record should automatically become a research document.
Oh, okay.
Because you never know, future you get some thought and you wanted to go back and look at records. There's so many in history there's so many examples how some important diseases were described with a sudden thought. And going back and reviewing the records, and the classic was sickle cell retinopathy by Morton Goldberg.
Yeah.
The story was that he used to draw everything,
Everything what he saw.
And so he used to even draw conjunctival vessels. in the patients.
Yes, yes.
From that, the descriptions have come.
Okay. See, Dr. Rao, I'm sure now what LVP has become, and to my mind, and those of us who have worked with you closely, we think that LVP impact on the global blindness. I don't think there's any other institute in the world comes close to it. Did you really think when you started that it is what it will become, or how did you, and then how did you handle all these things?
I think in a way, what is it called? Organic growth or something. That's what happened.
Organic, yes.
Organic growth has what, as the opportunities came, as the need became visible, we just grabbed the opportunity and worked to fill the gap. We are never initially. Actually, I used to tell very positively, we are not going into any rural area. Don't forget about it. We just in Hyderabad, top class center. That's it. That's our job, and we will do that. Don't tell me to go to villages. Don't tell me to go here, there. Eye camps, no way. So we were very clear about. But then, as we saw the complications, as we saw the need, it struck me we are still really not reaching the people who need our care. And then the people from international agencies started poking me. What's the big deal developing a high quality center in a city? Show me that you can do that in a village. So when we finally realized that and wanted to do, so I said, if we are going into a rural area, we are going to the poorest and the remotest. And if we didn't go, that place would not have eye care for the next 25 years. So that's how we selected Mudol. That was the poorest district at that time in Andhra Pradesh, and the remotest and a small village. And everybody, including in the institute, like GC used to say, are you crazy? You're spending 25 lakhs. Because the two agencies were giving 2/3. They said 1/3 you have to find yourself. So that was 25 lakhs in those days. We could buy another laser with that money. We need a laser here. So, but anyway, we went ahead and they said, everybody predicted it would be an absolute failure. And there's no way it will work.
Fortunately, that's an history now.
Yeah, fortunately it worked, and then it went on. And then it became a bug for us. One after the other, keep on adding more and more and more secondary centers. And so then the idea, after a few years, then one day we were meeting with the eye care group talking, and hey guys, even at the secondary centers, we are not going to the remotest and tribal areas. We have to do something. Primary care. How do we do it? But not camps, permanent primary care facilities. Then came the concept of vision centers, and then the staffing. Neutral term. Vision is between optometry and ophthalmology. Vision technician is between the two cadres. So,
yeah, I think, Dr. Rao, why you have been able to develop this organization to this scale is because you never thought that it's your own. You developed it for the society, and then allowed people and organization to come and contribute their part, and then manage whatever the ups and downs of the. Or do you think what the elements are of developing such an organization?
3-4 things. One was it was not going to be our family. So one of the conversations right in the beginning, when we met the father and son, when we were LV Prasad,
and LV Prasad ji.
The conversation they came, we want to feel that this is ours. I said, yeah, of course, I hope you continue to feel it's yours. They kept on repeating. I said, what do you mean? You want to run it? They said, no. Then Ramesh ji said, if somebody in our family becomes an ophthalmologist, a doctor wants to become an ophthalmologist, I said, if that is the case, I'll do my very best to get them best training opportunity. At the end of training, if they are not up to the mark, they will not get into this place. Same thing will apply to my children if they choose to become ophthalmologists. So otherwise, it will be my children, your children, other trustees' children. Even before we start, we are killing it. It will be chosen only on the basis of their qualification and merit. If we don't have the best people working there, there's no point creating it. And we want to have a high quality center. So that was very clear. And the second thing is I realized my job is not to promote myself. And it is to create talent and foster the careers of so many youngsters who are very bright.
So, Dr. Rao, we were talking about what elements made LVP the way it is now, and you were saying something.
And the other thing is the insistence that whoever we recruit, the youngsters, they should be allowed to just blossom. So that has helped us. I think it created a great pipeline of people.
Well, again, I'm the live example of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And even leadership transition, that was a big plus for us.
Yes.
While other institutes, many of them are struggling everywhere. I am on the boards of a few organizations, non-ophthalmic now. The way they are struggling to get good leaders is incredible. I mean, that's a big deficit in our country.
In all organizations.
Yeah, leadership.
Not only in medical, all over.
Yeah, all.
Across the board.
Universities and industries.
So now currently, to give audience little, snapshot, what is the current number and what is the impact of LVP as on today? Just big numbers.
Big number is we touched we had about 38 million visits so far in our outpatient clinics.
Across the network.
And I think we performed about 3 million surgeries and trained both through short-term CME programs, through long-term fellowships and all that, approximately 30,000 people around the world, multiple cadres, most of them ophthalmologists.
And a lot of PhDs?
Yes, publication record is around 5,000 now, total peer-reviewed publications. And the PhDs, I think, is about 90 or something now. And 4 Bhatnagars, including you.
Yes.
And then 1 J.C. Bose Fellowship with the Javed Ali now.
Yes.
And Ramalinga Swami things are there. And then RO awards, multiple national and international awards. Just about every, like for example, this coming RO, 4 of our people are getting awards, I think.
Yes, absolutely. That's
single institution, 4 awards. And in the Chicago research ranking, we continue to be 6 or 7 in the world. And second in Asia, behind Singapore. And rehabilitation, we are number 1 in the country in Vision Rehabilitation Institution.
No, I don't know, Dr. Rao, is there any other institution like that in the world?
Nobody is doing it.
Nobody is doing such comprehensive and such in detail. I think that probably is the best as far as I have gone around the world. I haven't seen any such a big... Nobody dedicated to that area.
I only saw one place which was doing it no longer. Is in Ghent, Belgium, where Jules Francois used to be the head. In his days, they had a big rehab, but that's gone. Yeah, and
then corneal transplant program?
Transplant program we did. When everybody told me, forget it, don't even think of an eye bank in India, we went ahead. And simple thing that we did is adopting hospital cornea retrieval. Dr. Subbarao, director of NIMS, in 1 minute cleared the permission to institute that program in his hospital. So those kinds of proactive decisions by the decision makers can make a lot of difference. That transformed eye banking in the country.
Yes, absolutely.
His decision in 1 minute. He said, if you are doing good work, why would I say no? This was his answer when I approached him.
Absolutely.
And we just adopted it. I always ask our friends in cornea in India, you guys grab, jump and adopt every surgical technique from America. Why are you not adopting eye banking?
Eye banking.
Same way.
And still there is a need. I mean, except a few centers, huge need.
Only these 3 states where we are, there is no waiting list. Everywhere else there are waiting lists. Why? It's easy to... No, I tell them now there is a simple formula as far as I'm concerned. 50 eye banks in the country, 1 crore initial investment each. That is 50 crores total country in investment capital. 500 major hospitals with hospital cornea retrieval program. India will be an exporting country in 3 years.
Hope that this message goes to right people, or maybe we will find some way of reaching to the people, or maybe some foundation, if not the government. Now let me ask you some of the questions, like in terms of how your mind works. How were you very clear in your thought process, the conviction that you have, like paying, non-paying, merit-based research? Has that been your personality trait from very beginning, or do you think that this is a learned behavior?
It's a learned behavior, incrementally exposure to a lot of different systems, organizations. And the only thing I always say is I'm fortunate that I could pick up good things from everywhere and whatever I saw. And I got into that habit. For example, simple things, you can learn a lot of things from other examples outside of hospital sector or medical. We put in there is no queue in LVP for registration or anything. That I learned from 5-star hotels.
Yeah, I remember you once told that the hospital should not look like or feel like an hospital. I think it's a very powerful statement.
Same thing that I did for price 5-star is, when the patient is discharged, they don't go and stand before a billing clerk in a long line to pay the bill. We go to each room of the patient and clear them in their room.
Another very powerful lesson.
That means you go to the patient doesn't come to you. That is an example. And the other thing I picked up from the airports is small room for nursing mothers to nurse their babies while they are in our institute, waiting. These are all simple things that can
absolutely. If you are
so you constantly look around everywhere, there's something to learn. Like recently, Praveen introduced the exact system, like check-in for our air tickets. For our patients, they can give all their information, check-in in advance.
Oh, before coming.
Yeah,
that's very nice. You just do the check-in process, just like
so
you do for
constantly
airline.
thinking of how do we make it better and better to the patient.
That's very nice.
With
That's very
evolving
nice.
systems and how do we adapt them.
So
I think that is still there. Fortunately, it's sunk in, even all the way from housekeeping. And the other thing that we are extremely fortunate, 38 years record, is never was there an example of anybody asking for a tip from a patient.
yes, that I remember you, and I will tell you. Maybe I must have said you. Remember, I was once a patient care in charge around 2008 or 2009. I sent my security guard from my building and another friend, a auto rickshaw driver. I said, go and through the non-paying, and you have to go through the full exam, and you tell me where somebody asked you for a tip. And to my pleasant surprise, they said, Doctor Saab, किसी ने कुछ भी नहीं पूछा, हमारा काम हो गया है. So I felt that, okay, system is working.
No, if I'm from Vijayawada, I came as a patient. At the end, he came and said, I really want to admire you. He said, about what? I tried to tip 2-3 places, everybody said no. So then I believe, because he is here, they may be afraid, let me try in Vijayawada, Vijayawada campus. He tried there and everybody said no.
But how did you inculcate that in your employees? Did it happen by chance, or were you more
I think
conscious about it?
No, we made it very clear and we keep telling. And the second thing is, we have to lead by example. If they see me siphoning off money, then
I'll give you another example.
I can't tell them.
Yes, absolutely. I give you another example. When I was a fellow, I was in the first 2-3 months, and I was very impressed by your discipline and your forthrightness. And you have told us that if you found smoking in the room, I will not operate that person. So one day I said, okay, I found one guy smoked in the room, and I said, let me see Dr. Rao's action. And I reported to you. Then you told that I will not operate. Mrs. Ramam came and she was pleading. He said, no, madam, I will not operate. Please discharge him. This is against the principle. Same you told one of the donor, Mr. Vikram Thapar.
I asked him to go out.
He was smoking, and he was a donor at that time.
And afterwards, he gave more money.
He gave no money. and I think Vikram has been very supportive and very simple,
Yeah.
that we didn't have to do back and forth. He said, just Dr. Rao was once visiting Delhi and he asked me, can I meet Vikram? I said, yes, Dr. Rao.
Yeah,
I
we
arranged
had lunch with him.
lunch, and within no time he agreed for support for the new building. So see, I mean, there is a support when you are
No, even Dr. Anjireddy,
Dr. Anjali, yes.
somebody was my wife's childhood friend, very close. So she told him, why do you keep on giving them money? He wouldn't even see you without appointment if you want to eyes check. He said, that's why I'm giving you money.
So, Dr. Rao, this is all good because the organization has become very good, impactful, and role model for all of us. I'm sure there must have been challenges at the personal level. Can you give one or two challenges that people can learn from, and how did you deal with it?
No, the biggest challenge continues to be then and now people,
People.
getting the right people.
So, how do we address that problem?
Very difficult. I haven't found a solution. We keep on trying. And I think India, from what I understand, every sector, everywhere, that's the same problem. Yeah, getting the people of aligned standards and aligned values. When you would put those two things in the equation, it becomes very difficult. If you somehow want to run with whoever you get, we could have had a lot of places. So we are glad with the way we are multiplying. We don't need more than that. And actually, in fact, we are now in a situation where we are saying no, 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 no. And I'm not exaggerating. Every 2 weeks, somebody now comes and says, we'll fund the entire thing. In my place, can you build a center? LVP. We are saying sorry, thanks, but no thanks.
Why? Because you believe there is no, you
can't-
don't have the bandwidth? Okay.
Plus also to keep on multiplying. Second is sometimes in many places there is no need also. They might, where there are a lot of private practitioners also, we don't want to go and disturb them. Simply because
Their ecosystem is working
because
fine.
there is enough eye care available there. And so we don't go to such. The second thing is again getting people is a big problem. Yeah, but right now we have 12 acres in Amaravati. Chandrababu Naidu is after my life now, after coming back to power. What are you doing? When are you doing? What are you doing? You have to create something unusual. And you'll be surprised. There are donors ready to give up. Cumulative 200 crores is easy to raise there, Amaravati. Because all the successful entrepreneurs in Hyderabad are from that area,
From
those
that
two
area.
districts,
The two districts, okay.
many of them. They'll give money. So we are just brainstorming. You have to do something entirely different, a different approach, and something unique. Otherwise, how would we attract talent and other things to a place like that? Because it's going to be a green city, he's going to make it very unique. There is no question about it. Chandrababu is very determined about it.
Very determined. And he is also very ahead of times.
Yeah, in that unique city, how do we create something unique? So that's what we are going through right now.
So don't you think the human resource is a problem? So at least for the eye care, maybe now you have such a big infrastructure in a network that create a organization for all kind of human resource development with value system.
Yeah.
That should be the goal.
That's what we are trying through our academy.
Yeah, bits and pieces, a lot of it is happening in LVP. But I think if you can do and create a model so that others can replicate.
So that is something we are thinking about Amaravati also, some such thing. A unique place of education and all that. And there are lots of opportunities. We have to really sit and think. Multiple new areas. We are now into myopia, we are into elderly care, home care. So many new things happened in the last 4 or 5 years.
So what?
Still a long way to go.
So in like if you have to give some pearls of advice from your own learning, somebody who is 35, 40 and doing well clinically, surgically, but want to build an organization, what are your few simple advice
I
to
would say,
give to that person?
I would say clearly sit and think about what exactly you want, what shape you want. And then once you decide your destination, this is where I want to reach, then you identify the path on which you want to grow. Don't let anybody push or pull you. Because as I said, iBank is an example. They said don't go for it. Even the so-called well-wishers, they may think they don't know. Quite often they think these things will fail, so don't get into. So you have to be very clear in your mind when you go for a big project, what exactly you're looking for, and how do I get there, 1, 2, 3, and keep traveling in that path. It's like a journey. You want to go to Hyderabad, you buy an air ticket, you get on the plane and go. You're not getting off if the plane is stopping somewhere. You are not getting off. You're going straight to Hyderabad. It's the same thing. And then I think you have to have a very firm conviction and mechanics of how you want to do it. There'll be a lot of external forces, internal forces trying to push you and pull you. And you have to have the strength to withstand those things and keep going. I think from my own example, I can say anybody who really wants to do something can do it. It's a question of wanting to do it and how badly
Yeah,
you
but
want to do it.
I interact with a lot of fellows, young doctors, Dr. Rao, and most of them believe that money, where do we get? I think I tell them that that is the least of your problem. But somehow everybody's mind tells them negative that, oh, you don't have money, you don't come from a privileged background.
No, I think there's so much distraction nowadays in the country because you see all these glamorous lives. I think part of the problem is if you open any newspaper, any magazine, TV program, who do we lionize? Sports stars, movie stars, people with money, people with power. So the youngsters are getting attracted to those things. Second thing they see, a doctor going in a Mercedes, a BMW. Nowadays, a few of them I see even in Rolls-Royce cars are doctors. So all this, how do we withstand those pressures, those attractions, and not easy. And we can't blame the youngsters, some people going that way. But then each one has to decide what is happiness for them. Is it more money, more rewards in some other form? Like once I ran into a High Court judge in Vijayawada airport and he looks at me and said, Dr. Rao, you are getting wealthier and wealthier each day, do you know? Suddenly I got a jolt, maybe there is a rumor about me or something that I'm siphoning off or whatever. He said, why are you saying that? I asked him. He said, I don't know if you ever think about it. Every morning when they open their eyes, lakhs of people must be giving you the blessings. That's the most powerful form of wealth that one could accumulate. I said, thank you, that's a big message.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
So how many people believe in that is the question.
Yes.
Because that's not visible.
Yeah, not visible. But see, I tell you my live example. I come from a very small village.
Yeah.
And at that time, we had the belief like, okay, be honest, do hard work, good work. When you go to medical college, everything you hear is, oh, kiska beta hai, kisko janta hai. So we lose that faith. But when we came to LVP, the faith is restored. And then we come, okay, now this is a model that we can live with it. So now, last few questions, Dr. Rao. How do you see LVP in the future, and what do you think that the organization will go and leave a bigger impact?
So a few years ago, Sadhguru asked me there should be apparently a founder's vision statement. So I wrote a 3-page one. We want the LVP to remain a relevant and impactful organization.
That's the crux of the vision.
Yeah. Through employment of high quality talent, leveraging technological advances, and continue to remain a caring organization. Care part is important. So 3 T's we said: talent, technology, tenderness. So if you maintain those three and constantly remaining relevant to this existing situation at that time, whatever that is, and you continue to remain impactful, that should say it all.
That's very nice. There is another unique thing I observed that in your functioning and in LVP is that you have been able to work and create non-ophthalmic, people who are optometrists, vision technician. I remember, working with Brian Holden, who was an optometrist,
Yeah.
and collaborating. So, can you elaborate on, why and how did you think about these things?
This came through my learnings from exposure around the world. I always say I learned a lot more through informal learning than formal learning. Like in America, we used to have ophthalmic technicians
Ophthalmic
in
technicians, yes.
practices with ophthalmology. So here we didn't have ophthalmic technicians at all in this country. So we started that ophthalmic technician kind of cadre. And then when they become available, the optometrists started coming out, good quality from Shankar Nethralaya. In fact, the first few batches, the best of the first 2-3 batches we recruited at LVP in those days. So that's how we brought them in to help us in the outpatient. So it will multiply your effect. And they are good, better than us in some areas. And you can concentrate on medical and surgical care. So if you have an eye care team, an administrator looking after the day-to-day running, optometrist looking after the initial workup and refraction, and the word that was used by an MBA in the US, he came to inspect our practice in those days, was anything that is just a measurement, an ophthalmologist should not be involved. It's waste of your talent. So anything that can be measured should be left to less qualified people who had less training than you, which is a repetitive task like refraction, measuring intraocular pressure, keratometry, those kinds of things. So that's the idea. Those things you leave it to them, nursing leave it to nurses, management to an administrator, and then different cadres. And you focus on the most important. And then final interaction with the patient should be yours. That caring. Yeah.
So now Dr. Rao is 38 years. It's a whole lot of time, and organization has really grown into and doing a fantastic job. If you were to tell or say something to people, Indian Americans or Indian overseas, and they are in double mind whether they should come, they should stay there, what they should do, what would be your message?
I think India has a lot of opportunities. It's a lot easier to do things now than in those days when we started. In a way, in some sense, it was easier. In some sense, it is easier now. But still a country with huge opportunities, huge needs. And looking around the world, very few other countries can offer anything as good. Come back and chase your dreams if that's your dream, to come back and help your country.
And for the residents or young doctors who may be a bit confused whether they should go after money, they should go after fame, or they should create institution, what would your advice be after going through this yourself for so long?
No, it's 2-3 things. I think I look at it. If you are from a well-to-do family, go all out and help. Use your talent to help everybody that needs it. Don't worry about money. If you are from a middle-class family, yes, money is important. Try for a combination of how much money you want, and then draw the line there. And then what work fits into that, you decide that. Let's say a private practitioner, just throwing an example, is making 10, 20 lakhs a month. You can get a job where you get 4-5 lakhs a month, but then you can do other things that makes you happy. The other is the lower end where you struggle to practice. You may not save more than 2-3 lakhs a month. So it's a choice between which of the three you fit in and what you really need. And I see a lot of people who are from very wealthy families still chasing for money. I don't understand that. And I think you have to find your own satisfaction index in a way. What is it that you want? Is it, I don't care what others suffer, I only treat. Yeah, you can decide, I will only treat the very rich. I'll charge 2 lakhs for each cataract that I do. I do 5 cataracts a day. 2 days a week I work and I won't work. All those things are possible. But I think you have to decide for yourself.
So it's individual choice, and what is your calling is.
Or do you want to, there is I can't quote exactly, but I can give a gist of what J.K. Rowling said at Harvard graduation ceremony in 2008. I happened to be there. She said something to this effect: by becoming a graduate of this famous university, you automatically become very powerful. Unless you use that power to help the most powerless in the world, it loses its value. So as an ophthalmologist, you are given this unique power to help so many with poor vision. It's up to you how much you want to use that power. The more you use it, the more powerful you become.
I remember that talk you are referring. It is named The Power of Imagination and Fringe Benefits of Failure. To a Harvard law graduates graduating class. It's very, very powerful speech. And I keep listening to her. It's very, inspiring. Any final messages that Dr. Rao you would like to give to everyone, ophthalmologists, general people?
I would say Indian ophthalmology is on the cusp. The changes that are happening around the world are kind of make the entire world very vulnerable to a lot of different things. Like I recently read somewhere a very good statement, very telling statement, that we live in a fragile world. One is climate problems, second is possibility of frequent and more severe pandemics in future, energy crisis, 100 countries in the world collapsing economies. When you have this combination, it's very, very dangerous. So to survive in that is not easy. Second thing is all the developed countries are struggling. Their standards are declining. Here is an opportunity for India to fill the space. Go and grab it. Just this morning, I was talking to a professor of UCLA, and he's an Indian. I said his house was under threat during the recent fires.
Fire in LA fires.
So I said, come back and to India. He said, he was laughing and said, yes, you guys should do something about it, because Chinese and Singaporeans are already after us, throwing big salary offers because they know America is in trouble with Trump. So our country, we have an opportunity to fill the gap. And if we don't take that, Chinese and Japanese and Singaporeans will take it. And we can't blame them at that point. I think already China is...
Yes.
At this meeting, you see that.
But I must tell you, Dr. Rao, on behalf of all the people who have trained with you directly, indirectly, or the opportunity who had worked with you, I think we on daily basis feel very grateful that we got the opportunity. You have shown the path, and indirectly we are living that dream.
I know all of you remember me every day at 7 a.m.
In a good sense.
I get a lot of blessings at 7 a.m. every day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rao, for this fantastic insight, and thank you for sparing time.
Thank
it
you.
was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.